Hello, YouTube, and welcome back to the Christian Perspectives 2004 YouTube channel. This is Jacob Campbell, and welcome, as I said. In today's video, we are discussing faith and politics. Specifically, do faith and politics have an effect on one another? And if they do, how often do they affect one another, and how big of an effect do they have on one another, and in what ways do they affect one another? And let me preface this by saying I don't care what your political views are. Me personally, you want to know a little bit about me? I'm an independent, and I'm going to make myself public enemy number one by saying this, but I did vote for Donald Trump in November. That was my very first election voting in, and I voted for Trump. But I don't care what your political views are. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're Green Party. I don't care if you're independent. I really could care less what your political party is. I don't care. And that's how we should really be. Let's not make politics our whole world. There is so much more to life than politics. Let me tell you that. And me living a life as free of politics as it can be definitely showcases that. So faith and politics, do they have an effect on one another? Politics does not necessarily have an effect on faith, but faith at times, yes, can have an effect on politics. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, a good example would be in November in the 2024 election. One of the things Democrats ran heavily on was abortion rights and being pro-choice, whereas Donald Trump and the Republicans were running on pro-life. And of course, me, with my faith being in Jesus Christ, obviously I am going to be a pro-lifer. I think that's common sense, I would think. So I'm a pro-lifer, so obviously that, because of my faith in Christ, drew me more towards the Republican ticket. However, just because, an individual runs on something that aligns with something that I believe does not necessarily mean that I would vote for them. Like, there are some things that Donald Trump ran on that I don't agree with, like his claims that the 2020 election was rigged, and he'll try and maybe go after political opponents or do some of the stuff he was talking about, or the tariffs he was talking about. I don't agree with those. I really don't. But I still voted for him, not because of my faith, but because I agreed with most of what he was running on. I voted for him because, I like the guy at the end of the day. He's definitely not perfect. We know that for certain. Those indictments and convictions definitely showed that. But I like the guy. I like Joe Biden as a person. I like any politician as a person, any president as a person, no matter what their political affiliation is. But the fact of the matter is, my faith really played no significant role in why I voted for Donald Trump in 2024. Now, for some people, could their faith play a big role in why they vote for someone? Yes, it's possible, but to me, if a faith is being weaponized politically, then those individuals likely don't have true faith. Obviously, I cannot say for certain because I'm not God and I don't know the individual typically, but the way my mind works, if you're weaponizing your faith politically, then I have a hard time in believing that your faith is genuine. Now, some would argue that, well, Trump did that in 2024, that he weaponized the Christian faith, and personally, I don't really think he did. You can put your opinion in the comments on if you think he did or not, but personally, I don't think Trump weaponized the Christian faith in his run for president. I just think he displayed his faith in Jesus. He displayed his belief in Christ and in God throughout the election cycle. He never pushed it on anyone. He never weaponized it. He never did anything like that. He just shared his faith and shared that he had a major issue with the anti-Christian bias. So I would not say he weaponized his faith. Really, I don't think there's been any president or political party that has weaponized a faith here in the United States. Now, in your Islamic nations, there's a ton of weaponizing of faith there, and Christianity was definitely weaponized in the political world in Europe during the Middle Ages and things like that. But as I've said, people that weaponize their faith likely don't have true faith in whatever it is that they believe in. Like, if I came on here, right, and I began saying, like, you must vote Republican if you're a Christian, that's weaponizing, a form of weaponizing faith. And if I were to ever say that, you could say I'm not a true Christian because I weaponize my faith, and that's not what we are to do. So, with that being said, faith and politics, do they affect one another? Rarely. They do. Rarely. I really cannot think of any other reason outside of the abortion stuff as to why, or as another example of how faith and politics could cross over. Like, can my faith and did my faith play a role in why I voted for Trump last November? Yeah, as y'all know, I'm a pro-lifer. So that played a role in why I voted for Trump. But the abortion stuff was not the main reason that I voted for Trump. I voted for Trump because of his plans to fix the economy, had a good economy in his first term, and that's why I voted for Trump. The main reason that I and a majority of non-vocal majority of Americans voted for Donald Trump is just because Trump ran on stuff we cared about, and the Democrats, in my opinion, did not. So that's why I voted for Trump. My faith had little to nothing to do with why I voted for Trump. Now, can there and will there be times in the future where my faith will play potentially a huge role into whom I vote for? Possibly, because as I said, there are rare occasions where faith can influence a political view. But if a time like that comes, well, my phone got, I didn't have enough storage to finish the first half of the video, so I'm not even sure 100% on where I left off previously, but hopefully I can get through this last part of the video, which is basically just going to be the conclusion. Faith and politics, do they affect one another? Very rarely. Again, I voted for Trump not because of my faith, but because I believe Trump was the best man for the job. And there are other Christians that voted for Kamala Harris in this last election because they believed that she would do the best job. So your faith and your politics don't really have that big of an effect on one another. Now, as I said, there are rare occasions where they can play a big effect. Your faith on your political views. But that is very rare. So, with that being said, one stereotype that I do want to shatter with this video is the stereotype of all Christians being Republican. That is not true. Your last Democratic president, Joe Biden, was a Christian. Barack Obama was a Christian. George W. Bush is a Christian. Donald Trump's a Christian. You have atheist Republicans. You have Christian Democrats. So to say that Christians only vote Republican and an atheist only votes Democrat, well, that's wrong. There are plenty of followers of Christ that are Democrat, plenty of atheists, Muslims, Buddhists that are Republican. Which, to me, that fact plays a huge part and why I truly believe that faith and politics don't really have that big of an effect on one another. Now, you might disagree, and if you disagree, that's fine. But me personally, I see very little evidence of faith, true faith, playing a big role in politics. And nothing that happens in the political world ever affects faith. Never. Not true faith, not people that have true faith anyway. Because if you let politics shake your faith, then I question if your faith is true in the sense of, do you really have faith in what you believe if you're letting politics affect it? I have another message. There are some, a good majority, sounds like, I can't say for certain, but it does appear that there are some Christians out there that don't vote. If you don't want to vote, that's fine. But I encourage you to. Vote. Let your political voice be heard. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're an independent like me. I don't care. I really don't. All I care about, and more importantly, what God cares about, is your faith. Is your faith secure in Jesus? That's what matters. Not if you're Democrat. Not if you're Republican. Who cares what political party you associate with? Yeah, they might, affect, your faith might affect your political views here and there, but as I pointed out in this video, that is a rarity. At least for me, it is. Just, please, there is far more to life than politics. And trust me, there are just as many Republicans in heaven as there are Democrats. There are just as many followers of Jesus that are Republican as there are Democrats. Don't be sucked in to the stereotypes. If you're a Christian and you vote Democrat, great, keep doing that. If you're a Republican and you vote Christian, great, keep doing that. If you're an atheist and you vote Democrat, I hope and pray you put your faith in Christ, and if you want to keep voting Republican, great. If you're a Democrat and you're an atheist or whatever, again, I pray for you that you come to Christ, but I don't care what you vote for. Like politics, I don't care about. Vote for who you want. I don't care. Just as long as you're not attacking others for who they voted for. So, don't attack me because I voted for Donald Trump. Because I wouldn't attack you if you voted for Harris. So remember, God doesn't care about your politics. God doesn't care what your political views are. God doesn't care if you voted for Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., God doesn't care. God cares about is having a relationship with you. That is what God cares about. Not your politics. So thank you all for watching. And remember, there's more to life than politics. Far more to life than politics. As I say so often, always know that Jesus is reaching out for you, and He wants you. For He lived for you, died for you, rose for you, and is coming back again and prepares a place for you. Never forget that. Never. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully everything is streamlined pretty well. God bless.